What's up, everybody? We are back with a live edition of the Ad Podcast, taking over the Stagwell Content Studio again here at Sport Beach. Thank you for tuning in, and we've got a great guest for you today. James Townsend is the CEO of the Stagwell Performance Media Network and also the head of the EMEA region for Stagwell. James, thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks for having me, Dylan. Good to see you. Thanks for coming to Sport Beach.
Yeah, thank you. Well, this is definitely a top destination on the bucket list this year. You guys, I think year 3, correct?
It's year 3, and it seems to be growing each year. So yeah, we're very happy with it. The team has done a brilliant job.
Yeah, it seems like you guys have kind of come out of nowhere with this and really become like a top destination on the Palais, on the beach. What's new and special this year than the first couple of years that you guys have done?
Well, I think, the first thing we wanted to do was if we were going to come to Cannes, we want to come with a point of view. So rather than just have a nice cabana with, an environment where people can spend time, come and have a conversation, and sort of the intersection of sport, fandom, and culture is enough of a subject, but also has the ability to sort of extend beyond that and how brands intersect with those areas. So we wanted to do that, and each year we've sort of refined our programming and so on. But in terms of the wider conversations around Cannes, there's some obvious hits in terms of trends. You're seeing a continued investment from tech companies and the tech platforms, new entrants there. Retail media continues to be a massive conversation.
Yeah. We've got a Marriott actually taking over their hotel and not farming it out. They're using it as a place to pitch their retail media.
Right,
network.
and
everybody has a retail media network.
It's a growth spot, and we're investing also. I think there's also the natural dynamic of equal and opposite trends. You sort of see that each year to some degree. I think this year you're seeing that whole question around those two letters, AI and tech, and then also the role of sort of human creativity. And I think, we had Mark talking on the stage there about the fact that is a marriage and a reciprocal relationship, an enablement relationship.
One isn't taking over the other.
No, or it doesn't need to. And so we're trying to embrace that. The holding company position is attempting to get to a balance of talent and tech, an appropriate balance of talent and tech. So we're embracing technology, but we're also looking to kind of keep our best people thinking of new ways to kind of help brands thrive. So I think you are seeing that natural dynamic of the equal and opposite trends playing out. Experiential and pop-ups, especially in the luxury sector, seem to be coming back, where brands are trying to sort of stand out from a noisy digital environment.
Have a more sticky touch point with the consumer,
an
opportunity for them to fall in love with the brand.
That's right, and I think you sort of see maybe a desire for probably the younger cohort, younger audiences looking for proper connection, like real physical connection with brands, experiential connections with brands, not just those interactions with your phone, which have a role and have a meaningful role, but that hybrid is starting to come back, I think. It's something else I've seen.
Yeah, I think that's super exciting. Would love to touch briefly on your experience with EMEA, especially in the Middle East. There is the largest percentage of young people. I've been seeing some crazy statistics around music being really broken in that region. How are you thinking about EMEA as kind of a part of the global audience mix and how it's moving culture? And have you guys brought any of that, anybody from your region into the programming this week to talk about any of that?
Yeah, I'm obviously doing a fair amount, and we've got various CEOs from across the region and also my network, the media network you mentioned. It's a massive focus for us, specifically the Middle East. We did, I think, 11 acquisitions last year. The 3 biggest were probably in the MENA region. It's an explosive place to go in terms of the growth we're seeing there, the optimism. It's interesting, we've been working with different funds over there, and I think they talk about opening sectors, not opening brands. They're launching sectors and multiple brands in those sectors. Wow. So the whole dynamic of growth, the whole dynamic of investment, and the optimism that comes with that is intoxicating for us. So we're looking to continue to invest in the region. Assembly, one of the businesses that we run there, that region alone will grow at 50% this year. Wow. And there's 400, 500, 600 people across the group there now. So we're seeing massive growth. It's a place we want to do more business, not less. And I think it's part of a strategy for Stagwell to go global and to continue to go global. And I think we're a sort of 75-25, I think, in terms of the split across the US and rest of the world now. And I think we're looking to that to be a more 60-40 65-35 over time.
Yeah.
So it's become a true rounded out global player.
And you just see so much investment in travel, trying to bring tourists from the West into places like Qatar and Dubai. It just like, some of the hotels and attractions that you see are just massive.
We have a
World Cup, UFC.
Totally, yeah.
Like it seems to be, and it's also the most expensive ticket from Los Angeles. Like if you look, it's like Singapore and Dubai in the Middle East is like it's
bad
the
luck.
luxury market too. Right?
It is, yeah. And I mean, it's many things, but there you made 2 points there. I think that there is no ceiling to the growth of the luxury market in that environment. I have to say, from what I see, and there's also the youngest population on the planet.
Yeah,
and so
it's a very
there is just
interesting
exponential
dynamic
growth.
Of household income and just ultra wealthy, but then also this young, thriving population of people that are consuming cultural media, probably at a level that is unprecedented anywhere else in the world.
100%, and that's why we're going to keep investing.
Very, very cool. Well, let's get back to what's going on here this week. So, tell me about you've done some panels. You probably have some coming up. What are some of the main things that you've been touching on?
I mean, well, obviously, sport is a theme through everything we're doing this year. I think the role of the athlete in campaign creation was something that was discussed across the week. But I had a panel with some pro footballers, soccer players, and
that football.
The real football, actual football. Then they cancelled him. I think the conversation we had yesterday on stage, a gentleman called Ian Wright, fantastic ex-England player, an Arsenal player, and he was really talking about the role of an athlete in co-creating and co-authoring work. And we had Tati Lindenberg from Unilever, who runs the laundry portfolio globally for Unilever, and she was really talking about how athletes now are needed to be part of the creation process, part of the authoring of campaigns, and the benefits of that being, the insight from the athlete's point of view and opening that up to a wider audience. The fact that there is a sort of more vulnerability and rawness that comes through their personal experience, less polished, which I think people are looking for, more authenticity, arguably. So that's certainly something that's been coming through as well. And I think also those athletes becoming entrepreneurs in their own right. Like many of the athletes here, and they're bringing their proposition to the market, and they're looking for brands to partner with and to sort of have a reciprocity for both groups. So I think that's really interesting, seeing how athletes are pushing into business. We had A-Rod here yesterday talking with Scott Galloway about that exact subject. And I think it's we got Ryan Reynolds this afternoon. That'll be interesting. He's obviously done some amazing things.
Obviously.
Yeah, I mean, Wrexham.
Direct consumer celebrity brands, but also a media company owner, a prolific investor.
And Wrexham CEO, who knew? And he's done wonderful things for that football club. So really breaking the mold of what is possible, I think, in terms of creative business thinking is actually, he's a brilliant example of that.
Yeah, I love this example of the athlete being more involved in campaign design, and you're talking about all the way to the insight phase. So with a partner like Unilever, how does that unfold operationally? Is it, they kind of start with a sports talent, group, and then they try to uncover insights about their day-to-day life, and then they point them in the direction of different products. Maybe it goes to an innovation team to create something net new.
Yeah.
That's fascinating because, I think athletes as storytellers is a theme that's been exploding. I think it's a bunch of things. I think it's the leagues being more flexible with their IP and not being so controlling. I think it's the connection of fans having more of an affinity with the individual player versus the team, although the team is very important. But I think the fandom to individual players is probably higher.
Yeah, I think absolutely. It's a personal relationship.
Yeah,
These athletes, you can have a conversation with that athlete.
Yeah.
And you can really have a proper meaningful interaction with them. There's also, I think, the fact that they have audiences. Like, let's be honest, like they have large, engaged audiences, and that is exactly...
They are the media channel.
They are the media channel, and that's exactly what brands are looking to do, to get to kind of, really meaningful environments and audiences that are kind of engaged in those platforms, and they are platforms themselves in many ways, in the best sense. So that is something that is to their advantage, and brands are sort of seeing and wanting to react to and invest in.
Yeah, I think so. And also the idea of athletes becoming better storytellers, owning production companies
Yeah.
to run their own media brand and social, but then also do work across their portfolios. I worked with Tony Hawk in Adobe early days, and
Amazing.
he had a YouTube-funded channel called Ride. He had
Right.
Birdhouse. He had
Right.
an agency with Sean
Amazing.
White and another
Yeah.
top snowboarder. Like all these assets to run the brand of Tony Hawk, but then also do work and collaborations with brands.
It's amazing, and that's a playbook, right? But
Yeah.
now I think the difference now is that these things that sit in our pockets are the barrier to entry has just come down so
low.
far,
Yeah,
and so
exactly.
if you're minded to engage with an audience and you're an athlete, then you'll probably find a meaningful way to get to them quite easily.
Yeah, no, I love that. So I think you also hit on a really important, thing that I want to dive back into is the idea of the conversation around AI, but also creativity. Feel like CES maybe this year was like 100% AI. It was
Sure.
nothing but. It was
As you'd
the
expect, yeah.
Consumer electronics show of AI versus the consumer electronics show. Possible, I think, was the inflection point for me, where it's like, yeah, lots of conversations about AI, but also a lot of conversations about how AI will create such a low barrier to entry for challenger brands that if you don't stand for something, people don't know who you are. If you're not investing in brand, if you're not storytelling, if you're not telling people what you care about and what you value, then in a sea of sameness, the only thing that matters is brand.
Yeah, I mean, as I said at the start, every trend has a sort of an equal and
whipsaw,
opposite.
yeah.
Yeah, I think so, and I think you look at some of the maybe 3 to 5 years ago that conversation. The reason I named the media network that we have here, the brand performance network, is because it seemed like there was a false barrier between the two. You're either a brand marketeer or you're a digital sort of data geek.
Yeah,
and
or you're a performance marketer
exactly,
or a brand marketer.
exactly, and that's inherently unnecessary. And actually, a nuanced relationship between the two is what marketeers and brands need. And so I think the same stands for the human touch and the human role in creativity and the enablement opportunity we get with AI. I mean, we think about AI from a point of view that is, every website in the world will need to be redesigned over the next 3 to 5 years to somehow accommodate for AI. So that is a business opportunity for us. But I think there's also, we're probably in that nascent stage where it's mainly being deployed for efficiency.
Yeah.
It's a time saver. It's something, and we want to get to a point of incrementality as soon as possible. So
Yeah.
high value tasks done by humans, creative problem solving deployed, using AI and somewhat enabled by AI, but maybe not led by AI. That's probably it. So it's a balancing act that we'll have to kind of learn together on as a sector. But we want to be at the front of that, making mistakes and fixing them fast, and then being creative.
Is there a most exciting example of that more high value task versus efficiency task that you've seen?
Well,
that's
I think-
kind of like almost shocks you that we're that close.
Well, I think there's sort of the palace full of amazing work that I'm not sure could have been come to. The lateral thought that comes to some of the best work in the world. It's probably hard to kind of think that this machine will get there soon, but it may do. I think in terms of AI's sort of incrementality potential, well, probably 2 areas: content production and content creation at scale. What was DCO or whatever that future is really amazing. We have a business here called Smart Assets, which is really the vision for that business is sort of self-creating, self-optimizing, self-measuring content. Now,
kind of like what Zuckerberg talked about, just swipe your credit card and we'll do the rest.
Well, it's really, and that needs to sit in complement with those big tentpole moments, like those big amazing Super Bowl moments, those big amazing brand ads, like you talked about it earlier.
So that's the
brands with points of view are going to become more important, not less.
Yeah.
And I think that needs to be human.
So the Super Bowl ad is the high value creative that is done by humans, and then the 1 million versions of it that are personalized to each individual
Inevitably,
person.
technology has a massive role to play there. So, and that to me is a marriage, not an exchange. So, I think the ability for brands to stand for something, to have a point of view in the world, and to attract people who might share that value system, needs to be told in an ever more creative way to cut through, I would say. But the ability to then add nuance and specificity, individualism to how that might play out in format or in environment or in nuanced message, is something that absolutely technology has a role to play. So I think content's one, media inevitably is the other. The ability to kind of read signals and self-optimize media on the fly is something that will continue to be a massive part of my group as we develop into that space.
Love it. Anything we didn't talk about?
Oh, we covered off pretty good. Covered off the pretty good. Like future of marketing, the crozet, and everything in between.
James Townsend from Stagwell Beach. Thanks, guys.
Thanks very much.